I'm going to do my best to convey how I feel about this topic, and I'm going to try to do it in a logical way, but my mind kind of gets scattered when I do all these things, so bear with me. Hey, what's going on? It's Matt. It's Friday, and it's time for another episode of My Two Cents. And if you're not familiar, this is the weekly segment that I do on my channel where I just kind of babble. It's pretty much what it boils down to. And it's meant to start a conversation. It's usually spawned from something that happened on a different platform or conversations that I'm having with friends. And this week I really did want to talk about conservation, wildlife conservation, and specifically fish conservation. And I'm going to do my best to not just focus on the California Delta situation. But that's where this whole conversation started. And out west of Chris was like, maybe you should talk about that because you seem pretty opinionated on it. And I am. Because what's going on out here is it's really messed up from both sides of the fence, to be honest with you. And if you're not from California and you don't live in this area and you watch my channel, I appreciate it. But we have something called the California Delta system, and really what it is, it's a system of rivers that flow into the San Francisco Bay. And the California Delta really is in this middle part where it's this natural estuary that is brackish water. And if you're not familiar with what an estuary really is, it's part salt water and it's part fresh water. And it creates a nutrient-rich environment where fish species and other small species can really just like thrive. It just creates this environment that's conducive to the 750 species of animals that we have living in the California Delta. And then, and what's going on around here right now is that, like, there's this huge push for something called the Delta Tunnels, or the California Water Fix, as our horrible governor likes to talk about. Which will take a freshwater system coming out of the Sacramento River, create 35 miles of two underwater tunnels that will take it down to Southern California into the aqueduct system. And what that will do is it will put more stress on the other two or three rivers that feed into the California Delta, which will not be able to handle it because the Sacramento River is just bigger, but it won't be able to handle it. And what that will happen is it will push more salt water up into the California Delta system. And at the end of the day, will have a very profound effect on that kind of balance of the environment that we have right now. Now, that's all kind of like just a California problem, right? And really, the root of all of this problem is farther up the hill, in my opinion. The problem that we have with all of our waterways in the United States, in my opinion, are dams. And I know this is kind of a serious topic. Like, this isn't funny. This isn't like passionate. I am very passionate about this. I'm just trying to find a way to articulate it calmly so I get my point across. Because, I lose focus a lot. But dams were created, we have 75,000 dams in the United States that are over 3 feet tall. That is equivalent to one dam a day since President Thomas Jefferson was in office. Just let that sink in for a minute. That's a lot of dams. And the real heyday of dams was 1950 to 1970, where the most federal dams were erected. And the reason why behind that is like 75% of the power that created the machinery and tools and weapons that we used in World War II came from hydroelectric power. So there was this natural boom in hydroelectric, utilities and facilities to be made. And these dams also created reservoirs, which allowed desert communities to have irrigation because we wanted to live there. Or we never learned how to live there within the natural resources, so we said, let's make it like everything else. So these dams, at the end of the day, create this blockage of a natural waterway. And they flood valley systems to do that. Because once you put up that wall, to build a natural dam, you have to have a natural valley, which all rivers run through. And when you put that wall up there, it floods everything that's underneath that. And this has happened like in Yosemite with the Hetch Hetchy Valley. It's happened just all over the United States. I'm not going to start rattling off a bunch of things, but this actually destroyed tons of just natural wildlife and habitat to create and sustain new man-made habitats. And, you know, all this talk that we have about what's going on out here with the Delta in regards to spraying and in regards to the more, you know, the sea lions even tie into this, it's all because of the dam systems that exist in the United States. We are actually blocking fresh water from coming down naturally the way that, I hate to use the word God intended, or Mother Earth would probably be a better one in this particular instance, intended it for to do. So because we have this need as men and then as women, as human beings, to really kind of destroy anything that's natural and beautiful, because I really believe that, so we can make it habitable for us, these dam systems have just really destroyed our river systems. And part of what that river system is our salmon population and our steelhead population. And with these larger dams, they made the decisions to create hatcheries. And hatcheries are a complete and total joke. It was a way for the government to essentially say, hey, we're going to block a natural waterway for these indigenous fish and to kind of go do what they need to do to spawn, which is to swim upriver and go to these flats. And let's just talk about steelhead for a quick minute. Steelhead swim almost 900 miles from the Pacific Ocean to go spawn. And we put these blocks in the middle of the way so their population's essentially gone down. We put artificial fish ladders and we try to make it natural when it's just absolutely not. We should just mess with it in the first place. But these hatcheries essentially are creating like first cousin fish. They're creating a bunch of badeeps is the correct word for it. I mean, they're kind of like idiotic. And then we release them all into the river system down below the dam to kind of create that natural environment that we're robbing them from and create that sustainability for the rest of the predators and predatory animals to kind of feed off of so the habitat can stay sustained. And you put these hatchery fish into the system and they basically run over and take over all of the natural salmon and steelhead populations that exist already. So where am I going with all of this? I think that fish conservation and, you know, conservation of wildlife in general, I think that the damage that we have done can be fixed. And it has to be fixed with sacrifices that we make as communities and as human beings in general. If you were to get rid of the dam systems, the larger ones that exist, let's just say in Northern California, valleys would be flooded, homes would be lost, people would lose where they lived. But at the end of the day, and that's a horrible thing, I'm not downplaying, I'm not putting fish above humans, but what I am saying is that everybody who sits around and preaches all of these things about what's going on in the Delta and how the sea lions are ruining the Delta or the plants or the government are ruining the Delta, there's always somebody saying it's one thing or the other. The one thing that we have to keep in mind here is that we are the outsiders in all of this when it comes to nature. Like, we are the ones that do the most damage. So we're trying to fix it. I just don't think that we're fixing it in the right way. And I guess that's really what's the heart of this conversation with me, is that like we're doing these other things trying to fix the situation, but we're not looking at the one that I want everybody to look at, which is the dams that exist. I think that the fish populations would thrive. I think that we would survive droughts, believe it or not. I think that that's just the way that Mother Nature intended it to go, right? And the non-invasive species that are suffering in the California Delta and in other waterways right now would be restored gently over the course of time without these fish hatcheries, which I think are more of a detriment to what's going on with the natural fish population. So break down the dams, in my opinion, is kind of what I'm getting at here. But kind of want to, on the same topic of all this, was that, you know, this all started because some Yahoo on Facebook said something about the sea lions in the river systems that we have out here now. They're more prevalent. And the reason why is because of those dams. I mean, like, it really kind of stems back all the way back to where I was saying before, is that, like, we're blocking that natural waterway of fresh water. Sea lions and seals don't like fresh water. And as the flows continue to decrease, because we are in this overall huge drought in the state of California that has been going on for 100 years. This isn't like, oh, we have a drought in 2014 and everybody, you know, grabs the floor and cries. Like, it's been going on for years. Like, we're just kind of going in this natural decline deficit, and sometimes it levels off, but it's still going down every year. Make no mistake of it. That's just the natural evolution of things. But if you were to release those dams just by nature taking over again, those flows would increase and push the salinity of the water out. Now, would that hurt the Delta as an estuary as a whole? Probably a little bit on the northern part of it, but like the southern part of the Delta, which is close to the forebays, you know, I think would still be in really, really good shape and actually would get better over the course of time. So if you want, to the guy that I talked about on Facebook with this, if you want less sea lions, don't try to kill them. They're natural predators. They found their way farther north because basically we're allowing them to find their way farther north. Get rid of the dams, and I think that would go away. I just wanted to talk about this because, I don't know, it sucks. Like, I'm not a tree hugger by any means. I'm really just kind of somebody who has always hiked his whole life and has been a backpacker and a camper, and, you know, it's going away. And oddly enough, since I moved out to California 5 years ago, California is the most disgusting state when it comes to this. California takes these incredible, just like fields, and destroys them with homes. And the logic is, oh, our population is growing. Our population isn't growing. You're allowing it to grow by doing that, which messes up the housing market. I'm not even going to get into that. But California is just like, it's disgusting. I mean, I love my friends out here. I love the fishing out here. But the politics out here and the tree huggers out here and the ultra liberal people out here are disgusting. Because if you don't believe what they believe, they attack you. And I'm obviously not liberal, but my point in all this is that, like, you would think that California, as taunting as they are about being a forward-thinking state, would stop destroying natural habitats just to build homes. And like I said, that could just be a field. That could be farmland, you know? Nothing there, let's just put houses there. It destroys the natural beauty of things. And as Californians, you should be ashamed of yourself if you're part of that. That's really what I really have to say about this. I mean, conserving our wildlife is extremely important. The best way to do that is just to kind of let Mother Nature take back over. I don't think we should try to help. I think we should just shut it down and let Mother Nature take back over. That's it. That's my 2 cents. I know this wasn't like a crazy one or a funny one, but this might even be the longest one I've ever done. And I hope I got my point across. That's it. Thanks for watching this thing, man. Maybe you didn't make it to the end, maybe you did. But think about it. If you're interested on where kind of my thought process started all of this, I watched a documentary called Damnation. I'll put a link down to it below. I've watched it about 90 times. I've been watching it for years. It's just so informative. Go hug a tree. Talk to you soon. Bye.